Work your side hustle until it becomes a full-time hustle. I always say it like this: if you can't work on your business part-time, you can't work on it full-time.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Leadership Stack channel. For today, we have Brenden from Mastertalk, and he is going to be helping us know more about the public speaking industry. If you are interested in your communication skills, improving it all the way to making it a profession, maybe even a business, then listen up and enjoy. Brenden, thank you so much for being here on the show.
Of course, Sean, thanks for having me.
So you are in Canada. You're working right now. I don't know if I should say part-time. You're employed full-time, but you're making killing already with your public speaking gigs. And yeah, we talked a little bit earlier. It's how I'd like to do it with my guests. And you're making enough for you to be able to say, oh, okay, maybe it's time for me to just do this full time. And that's really what happened with me as well when I was starting. I worked for Hewlett Packard 5 months, and then I said, I have to focus on, I have to focus on my business full time. That was 10 years ago, and that's the only employment I ever did. So I've only been employed 5 months, jumped ship. Thank God the ship was there. Otherwise, I would have just jumped into muddy water. A lot of people ask me this question actually. Sean, when's the time to jump ship? Sean, when's the time for me to quit my day job and just do my passion full time? So I want to know the story behind it for you.
For sure. The short answer to that is, if you're asking the question, don't jump ship. That's easy, right? So if you're wondering whether I should jump ship, should I not? The answer is always no. You'll know when it's time to jump ship. So there's two parts then, and I'll explain my own story. Some people say burn all the bridges. Some people say do it on the side. My advice is simple. People who are already burning bridges and going all in don't need this conversation and don't need my advice. So let's focus on the people who are too scared to take action. I'm a huge believer in side hustles because the difference between entrepreneurship and having a job is job brings you security, job gives you a set number of hours, job gives you a set income stream. But entrepreneurs, there's no set income stream, but in the same caveat, there's a lot more upside than being an employee. So my advice is always simple. Work your side hustle until it becomes a full-time hustle. I always say it like this: if you can't work on your business part-time, you can't work on it full-time, unless you're a burn the ships kind of person, which is not a very huge percentage of the population, I would say. So for me, it was very simple. I wanted to be an employee my whole life. I had no intention of being an entrepreneur. I wasn't one of those kids who started in a lemonade stand. That wasn't me. I was 12. I wanted to be a corporate accountant, got an internship at PricewaterhouseCoopers, worked really hard, even if I thought it was a water bottling company. For those who don't know, it's a big accounting firm in the world. Then after, I wanted to be a technology consultant, so I got a great job at IBM. And all I wanted to do was be a senior level executive. Those executives in Canada and the US make $500,000 a year. That's more than most entrepreneurs in the world, because most entrepreneurs aren't very
Yes.
successful. And I didn't want to do any of this Master Talk stuff. But the difference was after I graduated. So after I got the job, I started working. I just asked myself the simple question, Sean, that many of us will ask ourselves when we start to make money for our families, which is this all I'm going to do with my life? And for me, the answer was no. Was I just going to work as a partner and then die? Yeah, make a lot of money, but not do much else. That's when the idea for the YouTube channel came to be, because I realized a lot of the communication information was pretty bad on YouTube. No one was sharing free videos with people to learn and grow their communication skills. So I started making videos in my basement, no intention of quitting my job. But then it started picking up. More people started watching the videos, and here we are today.
That's awesome, man. So it's just, and it's something that you love as well, which makes it even better. So I want to know the story behind that. I mean, what motivated you and inspired you to, this is what I want to do for the rest of my life? I want to do public speaking and I want to make money from it, and I want to teach other people on YouTube how to do that. That just doesn't come by, and I want to know, where did that come from? How does that drive you now? Because you look like you're a guy full of drive for it. I've watched some of your YouTube videos, man. You deliver, and I want to know the story behind it.
It's very kind of you, Sean. So a couple of thoughts before I go into my story is this whole idea of passion. So I'm going to say something very controversial. I think passions are stupid, and I'll tell you why. They're vague, they're general, and if everyone was passionate about something, we would all be passionate and we would all be working on our passion. But here's the truth. Most people don't know what their passion is. So if you spend all your life trying to find it, you never will. Here's a better question I want you all to ask yourselves. That question is, what does the world need you to do most right now and why? So when I was 12 years old, I wasn't to be an entrepreneur, it wasn't to be a YouTuber, definitely far from it. It was to make money. So I got a job as an accountant. I wanted to be an accountant since I was 12, never changed my mind. And then I went to the next thing. And the next thing was IBM, right? Because I wanted to make more money. I wanted to do something a bit more, something I really wanted to do, which was helping solve problems for people. And then the communication skills I got, and I'll talk about that a bit more, of course, led to Mastertalk. But here's the thing. Decisions are always more important than passions. If I never made the decision to be an accountant, that would never have led to making the decision to be a consultant. And if I never made those choices, I would not have the expertise to even do Mastertalk, right? So you always need to be making decisions. Don't worry about passions. Just ask yourself what you need to do most right now and why. What does the world need you to focus on? So for me, when I was in university, I used to do these things called case competitions. So think of it like professional sports, but for nerds. So other guys my age were, playing college football. I actually don't know what the sport is in the Philippines. It's popular over there. But the idea is just,
Basketball.
basketball. Really interesting. It's a fun fact, right? So the NBA, right? Basketball, that stuff. So a lot of my friends would watch basketball games or play basketball. As you can probably tell from me, I'm not suited for either of those things. So what I did instead was I watched other people present. And that's what I did competitively. So for 3 years, I presented over 500 times, coached dozens of people on how to speak, mostly to get that job in consulting. Because most of the people who do these competitions, Sean, end up as, bankers on Wall Street. They get jobs at big banks. They get jobs in big technology companies like Google and stuff. So I wanted to be one of those people. But what happened was after I graduated, a lot of the students that I was coaching kept asking me the same question that I never had a good answer to, which is, how did you learn how to speak? So I grew up, lower middle income household. I didn't have money for a speech coach. So I was mostly self-taught. I just presented a lot. But so many people started asking me. I had a couple months to kill before I started working my corporate job that I always dreamed of. So I started watching a lot of the videos on YouTube, and they sucked. I was vomiting in my mouth. They were so terrible that I took a phone and started making videos in my basement with no lighting, no budget, no money. And then over time, they just got better and better. And at some point, with the money I was making at work, I went professional. And then people started asking me to coach them. And I just went, for money. And I just went, what? And that's how Master Talk was born.
That's awesome, dude. I mean, not a lot of people. Oh, by the way, how young are you?
So I started Master Talk when I was 22. And I started coaching
Wow.
C-level executives when I was 23. I'm 24 now, though.
Wow, congratulations, dude. A lot of people should start young like yourself. I know entrepreneurs who ask me, "Hey, how young did you start?" And we pretty much started at the same age. I was 22 back then. I'm 32 now, so that was 10 years ago when I started. Again, 5 months working in HP. Unlike you, when I was young, I wanted to be a pro gamer. So not
Me too,
something that's
actually.
good.
Some part of that.
The roads that divine interventions take you to, you never can tell. And public speaking, by the way, is one of the most published skills that they keep repeating that is the number one thing right now. You have to communicate well. Warren Buffett says it is worthwhile investment to make sure that you're able to speak publicly. He took classes, Warren Buffett, the richest, pretty much one of the richest guys in the world. So I'm wondering, with all of the practices that you've done, all of these competitions that you've done, and you have definitely improved now. You are coaching C-level executives now. I wonder what's the worst, and I'm sure you remember this, right? Because what's the worst public speech you've ever given? And
Oh,
how
geez.
has that contributed to your growth now? I mean, you've surely learned something there, right? Because you don't learn in your best times, you learn in your worst mistakes. I wonder what it is, and can you share that with us?
Yeah, of course. And the side note for the gaming, I used to be a professional League of Legends player actually, so I was pretty high elo diamond. So I was actually planning
Wow.
on going pro, and I decided not to, because and going back to the passion thing, it's because remember, it's not about passion, it's about decisions. What does the world need you most to do now? So Mastertalk was one of 10 ideas that I had, Sean. Like be a career coach. I was one of the youngest consultants in the game, so like I could teach people how to get a job in the industry. I had the idea for Master Talk. I had the idea to be a professional gamer. But Master Talk was the one thing that I could do 100 times better than anyone else. That's why I focused on that thing. So going back to worst presentations, my whole life was terrible presentations, if I'm being honest. The reason is because in Montreal, where I live in Canada, it's one of the few cities in the world where you actually need to know how to speak multiple languages to be successful in. So French is one of the languages where most people speak and do business in. English is also another one. But I already knew English, so my parents sent me to French school. So let me explain the implications of that. Not only was I uncomfortable with presentations for literally my whole life up until maybe 4 years ago, but I had to give presentations in a language I didn't even know. So I would walk into, second grade, fourth grade, seventh grade class and just look at everyone and go, I don't know the language. So you can imagine how much I panicked and how much I learned from that experience. My whole, pretty much half of the presentations I've given in my life weren't too glamorous. And another quick specific example I can give, I was giving a presentation to a group of teenage girls last year. You can imagine they didn't want to hear the old guy talk about communication and public speaking. Yeah, I know to most of you I'm young, but to them I'm the old geezer in a suit who's going to talk about public speaking. It was a Sunday morning. Let's just say it didn't go well.
You don't look that old to me, so I'm sure they're like, yeah, he's a little bit older. And yeah, I hear you. To them, you're like, when will I get there, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And the lesson I learned was to always do the harder thing. Much like you, like a lot of people ask me questions, most specifically to public speaking. They go, how do I run meetings at work? I always respond with, run the hardest meetings. Like get people you hate, put them in a room, and have them drill you on hundreds of questions. And then when you go back to your regular meetings, things are easy. Brenden, how do I present a topic that I'm passionate about, that I care about? Then present something that you don't care about. Present something you hate. Present accounting policy, something you know nothing in, so that when you go to something you're passionate about, something you understand, things become super easy.
How many times did you give the advice that you have to practice before you give a talk? You practice, I don't know, 3 times, 10 times in the mirror. You have to do your tongue twisters. I wonder, like, how often do you give this advice to them?
Probably all the time, but I'll add a new layer that not many people talk about in the industry. The issue with practice, Sean, is most people don't actually know how to practice in public speaking. So let me give you an analogy. Let's say you want to learn how to play piano. You have two options, unless you're like Mozart. So option A is you try and do like 10 different songs, you try and figure it out. So if you're Mozart, that works. And option B, so option two, is do one song and do it 50 times. So when you do the same song 50 times, everyone's going to think that you know how to play piano, even if you only know one song. So you're at a black gala event, nice black tie, nice bow tie, and there's like a piano. So you go and dazzle the crowd with your one song, and everyone goes, wow, Sean, you're such an amazing pianist. You've been playing this for so long. And that ego boost, that boost of confidence tells you that, hey, if I can do this one song, I can do another 10 easily. And this formula of always doing the same thing over and over again, we apply to everything in life, cooking, driving, anything. But we don't do it in public speaking. So let's say it's Wednesday and your boss, your client, your teacher comes up to you and says, Sean, I need a presentation for Friday. You go, okay, got to prepare this for the client. So I'm not going to talk to my family for 2 days. So you spend 10, 15 hours on the computer, get the presentation together, put a bunch of effort in it, present it, and then crumple it all up, put it in the garbage, and move on to the next presentation. Whereas the best speakers in the world present one or two things hundreds of times. If you think about me, as of this recording, I've probably given 900 presentations, but a third of those presentations was the same one. That's the secret.
I'm gonna tee you up from that. And so I'm also a public speaker here in the Philippines, and I have actually during the lockdown I have one talk already that has paid me my regular rate.
That's
Um,
awesome.
and just for people who are listening in, I'm willing to share how much my regular rate is per hour. I charge in dollars. How much is it in dollars? 1,500.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because I
So
wouldn't know it.
yeah. So I charge 1,500 bucks per hour. So that client got me for that. I do have another one this coming weekend, and is going to pay me my regular rate. So if you guys are wondering, is it worth it? It is worth it because per hour they pay that much if you have the credentials. I've been doing this 10 years. And now the question I have for you, and I'm going to tee up from what you said, is clients want something that fits their theme. They want something that would just be able to inspire their audience in a certain way. So for this weekend, I do have a talk. It is, they consider themselves an SME. I think they're a medium company more of, and it is for their sales team, for their distributors. And I have three guiding questions that I need to make sure I am able to deliver in that talk. And so I do have this pre-made talk that I could recycle for them, but I have to put in all of these elements in there, and I might need to edit it again. So coming from what you said, that one talk, you do it for like, I don't know, one third would be 300 times for you. How do you do it if clients want, just so much different things every talk that you do?
That's a great question. And it might be different in Manila and the Philippines, but generally speaking, clients actually don't know what they actually want. Right? So let's say, for example, they give you guiding questions. What they're really looking for is a great talk. So depending on what you're speaking at and depending on what your relationship is with the client, yeah, for sure, you're going to have to customize 10 to 20% of your presentation. But in my opinion, I don't customize more than 20%. The rest of the 80 is pretty much just the same talk. And I haven't had a dissatisfied client ever. Because if the talk is so great that it outweighs the fee, they consider it as a win. So my advice to you in your specific situation is I would recycle a lot of the expertise that you have about sales and digital marketing and frame the conversation of content you already know under those three questions. It's like coming on a podcast, Sean. When you go into the first one, you're like, why is a stranger asking me questions? And then after 100 podcasts, right, which is my case, there isn't a question that you can't answer anymore, right? Because you just know everything there is to know because people can't really ask you brand new questions at some point. And that's the point that I'm driving. For most speakers that aren't like Sean, especially for the audience now, because most people probably aren't professional speakers, I would highly recommend the one talk strategy. Gary Vaynerchuk's a good example of that. 13 years, same thing. Hey guys, so I'm from the Soviet Union, came to America. You guys have any questions for me? That's it. Like same thing. He gets paid $125,000 a speech to do the same thing every single time.
Wow.
So you really want to start with that for great talk first, and then of course, if your client has specific needs, customize. But I would never customize more than 20%.